I think I'd be reasonably comfortable in stating that the litmus test as to whether a person is awoken or not is if you enjoy going out in nature alone and you do it very, very regularly, and it's the most pleasurable thing that you can think of. Being out in the open expanse of the world, in all weathers, observing, feeling and being. And the reason why I would consider this the litmus test is because one's consciousness has to be expanded if they are going to be able to really enjoy this. Why? Because the aloneness of it. How many people can be alone? You need to be alone. You can't have any distractions. You've got to be pure in essence, open and observant and appreciative. There can't be any constraints within the mind that are going to prevent you from observing, absorbing and being open to it. Because a sleepy mind, an unawoken mind, will keep you closed. It will keep your consciousness small. And so your consciousness will never be outside of your head. It's always going to be all the things that's going on in your life and all that sort of stuff. And that will prevent you. It's like a firewall. It's like a misty window. It's going to prevent you from looking at the world en masse. When you get outside of the small bubble of your ego, you enter into cosmic consciousness. And that's then when you feel free. You are absolutely free. And so each and every day when I come out in nature, I'm enthralled. I'm just observing, feeling, intuiting, being, loving, experiencing, appreciating with the cosmic genius. And as this body stands here now and I feel the slightly warm sun on my face and the brightness, and I see a few clouds and the cool wind and a magpie in the distance and lots of birds around here and the shining dew on the grass and the flicker of tiny little stars, which are the beads of rain or dew on the grass, which is reflecting the sunlight directly back to my retina. Then we see spiders' webs and spider thread, and when they're gently blowing in the breeze, you can see like electricity running up and down them, and it's just incredible. And then you see how the light is reflected off certain parts. Like over here now, there's one part which is beaming directly back to me. There's always something like that. Just about every single time you observe the world when the sun is out, the probability is that there is something reflecting directly back to your retina, the sunshine. And I always can consider these to be like what Jewish Kabbalah speak of as sparks, because you can just move very, very slightly. I moved 1, 2, 3, 4 inches to one side, you see, then I lost it. Now it's come back again, you see. So you see it now. Now if I just go here, it's gone again to that same magnitude. It's just there now, that star beaming directly back to me, you see. Now, as I'm standing here, I can see certain beads of dew on the grass which are doing the same thing. And as I cast my eyes around, then I look for these anomalies. I look for the cosmos to speak with me. And just here now, just on this angle iron here, I'm getting the light reflected back to me. You see, it's a certain magnitude. You go certain ways, it disappears, and you come back certain ways, and then it's there again. And it's just one of those things that just lets you know that you are open and observant. And if you see all of those, then you see so much more. You see the varying buds on the trees and the leaves and the barks and the flowers and the clouds. You look and observe, and you absorb everything because your consciousness is open. I have never seen anyone else doing what I'm doing, ever, on the whole planet. Doesn't matter where I am, I've never seen anyone doing what I'm doing, because if I ever did, I would have to communicate with them and ask them, what are you doing? What are you saying? Now, people have done this to me. They've seen me speaking like I do, and sometimes they've eavesdropped, and they hang around and they wait for a convenient moment, and then they approach me, and then they say, I saw you speaking so intently. What were you saying? Or they say, I heard a few words and it caught my attention. Can you tell me more about that? So many people have done that. And yet I've never seen a single person doing it themselves. Bizarre, isn't it? Absolutely bizarre. Look at that column of light there. So, nothing. Beaming. Absolutely beaming. Wow! Just there. Wow! Pow! It goes pow! It catches your eye. And then we notice the finer things in nature. We notice how everything is changing around us all the time. We watch the seasons when they enter, and then they bloom, and then they fluctuate, and then they wane. And very often I see the colours of the rainbow in certain beads of rain or dew on blades of grass, and now I'm seeing yellow, and when I move other directions just a fraction of an inch, it goes from yellow to pure phosphorus, and then you can get a yellowy red. It's a yellowy red now, and then you will get a blue and a purple, and it's kind of like just one bead of dew on a blade of grass. And there's no point in me showing you on the camera, because invariably the camera doesn't pick it up. But when those things happen, it's just amazing. These beads of dew, they're like inverted prisms. You know, it is said that Isaac Newton, he was the one that discovered that light is pure white when we observe it coming from its source, i.e. from the sun, a beam of light. And when we see things reflecting, we see it pure white. But when he shone the sun through a prism and caught the reflection of the light coming out of the prism on a black piece of card, he could see that there were 6 colours in the sun. And so that's where the spectrum of the sun derived from. And somewhere down the line, maybe even Isaac Newton did this. He claimed that there were 7 colours because I think he wanted to keep in line with the biblical number of 7. And so he said that there was red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo and violet. Well, to discern the difference between indigo and violet, you need a very, very keen eye. And for years and years, I remember whenever I saw rainbows, I'd look at them and I'd count the colours. And I'm like, I'm only ever counting 6. The 7th one is just a self-delusion. There aren't 7 colours to the rainbow, people. There are 6. And 6 main colours. Now, of course, we can get variances of the spectrum depending on atmosphere and distance and all different sorts of things like that. But yes, so what I'm saying here, these beads of dew are like these prisms because the light is coming in pure white light, and when it passes through the bead of dew and it's diffracted, then it comes out in all the colours of the rainbow, and you can catch all the colours depending on moving very, very slightly, because you then come in line with one of the spectrums of light which is coming back out of that bead of dew. Whoever has told you that? You will search the whole internet, you will search the whole world, and you will never find anyone that's told you that. Why is that, people? Why is that many of the things the Awakened Brave says you will never hear anywhere else? And then when people often send me videos with someone that's saying some of the things I say, I'm like, yeah, they're saying some of the things I say, but there's a whole myriad of things that I say that they're not saying, things that they've missed. If people could put all my videos together, my 5,000, 6,000 videos, if they could feed them all into AI, then I'm pretty sure AI will say, there's little more to know. There's little more to know as far as human consciousness is concerned. And this isn't really excessively braggart. It's an observation that when you look finally at the world, and when you listen, when you feel, and then when you convey that into words, well, it's kind of like an accumulation of physics, scientists, philosophers, psychologists, artists, and all those different sorts of things. Because an artist invariably will capitalize on the light. And you can look at art, people, you can do it yourself, and you can see through the ages that it was only at a certain time that people started to get perspective. They got things in perspective, and they depicted what was actually there instead of using their imagination, just thinking stuff. Now, you doubtless would have seen, any of you that's been to a museum, you would see portraits of kings and queens, and there is no utilization of light. And that's a bizarre thing, isn't it? There's no utilization of light at all. The same amount of light is all over the face. There's no shadows, nothing. It wasn't until people like Michelangelo, Rembrandt and Constable, who knows, a lot of people, they started to capture the light, because of course the light is immensely important, and it was a major transitional period from the old artists into a very, very new realm of art. And some of you may be aware that when you look at pictures of horses running, they're running like cheetahs. They're running with 2 legs forward and 2 legs backwards, and like they go in this sort of thing, leaping forward like a cat. But horses don't run like that. They run with their legs going this style, in like a gallop. But when they get faster and faster and faster, they use their 4 legs. They don't use their legs like that. So why was it that artists always depicted horses running in that fashion? And how many of you have noticed? And how many of you have felt compelled to see why that was? I've looked it up, and it seems to have been an artist's preference and a style. And I'm like, I'm not satisfied with that. I think it was someone's misconception of how a horse ran, because they never actually looked, they never actually absorbed it, they just imagined that's how they ran. And it's completely ridiculous. To depict a horse running like that is completely ridiculous. Why would anybody have done that? I suppose it would have been a much easier way to depict the horse than catching all 4 of their legs in the very correct and precise way, because you would have needed a still frame or sequence of still frames to capture that. But if you didn't have that before photography, then you'd go, oh, I'm just going to draw it like this, with 2 legs going out like that at the front and 2 legs facing backwards, no particular muscular definition, just that's a horse running. And of course it wasn't a horse running, it was a creature that isn't known to this world, looking like it may have been in motion, but it was completely impractical and could have never been a reality, because horses aren't built like cheetahs and cats and any other animal that runs with that level of propulsion. You see, a squirrel, they run, they've got their back legs and their front legs go forward, and they pull them forward whilst the back legs come off the ground and then go on the outside of the paws down. So the back legs come through where the front legs are, and then they propel them off, and then the squirrel flies through and lands on the ground, and then the back legs come back to overtake them again. So when we observe things, we see that everything has its particular way, and it's very beautiful to discern between all the differences. And so now I'm looking at the autumn depiction of all these trees around me, and typically, because this is a graveyard, all the trees that are planted here were thought about. They weren't just random. They weren't the trees left on the outskirts when the central region was felled of all the trees to make way for graves. No, all these trees were purposely planted, and there's a great variance of them, and they're all for a reason. So, the observation people, to have an awakened. You see those stars? Two of them. One directly ahead, another one a little bit to the left. When we open our consciousness, we just are cosmically conscious. And for those of you that have watched my videos through many years, you'd have seen how I've observed the world everywhere I've been. I could be in a forest, I could be on a beach, I could be in a city, I would be in a building, I could be anywhere, and I would notice all of the details. Very few of the details would ever escape me. And this is why I have a deep propensity for philosophy and human psychology and naturalism and all those different sorts of things, because it's the details, people. When we wake up, we encompass the details, and our world becomes so much richer because all of these things we never saw before. And when people start to wake up, they start to go, wow, I never saw that, I never knew that. And you know, now the scales have been removed from my eyes. This is what it says in the New Testament. This is what Jesus said. Now, there's lots of these variety of seed here from the sycamore tree, and you know, we call them helicopter seeds or something, and they have this spinning thing when they fall. Now, one of the viewers commented on one of my videos when I said how to make the self disappear, and I was speaking about observing the finest of details and knowing that you are in a magical realm. And I was speaking about watching leaves and crisp packets and paper cups swirling in the wind in the same Fibonacci sequential swirling that galaxies have and many other things have on planet Earth. And so he told a story of when he was out with his young son, and the young son saw one of these helicopter seeds come spiraling down like that, and the young son started to laugh ecstatically. And so the father was picking up these seeds and throwing them back up in the air again and watching them come down, and the child was in that moment of looking at that thing acting in a very magical and curious way. Why was this thing spiraling and flickering around as it fell from the ground, very unusually? What else does that? There are a few seeds, probably, you know, many seeds that do that. There is the lime tree seed. The lime tree seed has 3 seeds, 3 little balls, and then they're joined together at one fulcrum point, and then they have like 3 leaves above them shaped a bit like this. And when you look at them, the whole design is, you would think that they'd be looking like they should spin. But I've tried them, and invariably they don't spin very much. And I was thinking, well, maybe they are in the transition of learning more how to spin. And when you see these seeds, now these seeds, they come from a sycamore, and they also come from oh goodness me, a maple. A maple. Now the sycamore is a maple tree, by the way. And there's many varying trees under the same genre as maple. But so the sycamore and the maple, Norwegian maple, large leaf, broadleaf maple, small leaf maple, they create these seeds, and when you throw them up and they come down doing this, they don't distance themselves unless the wind is really blowing. And so you can see that they are failed. It's a failed evolutionary thing for 99% of the times. It's only when the wind is pretty strong that these seeds, instead of just going like this and falling to the ground beneath the original tree, that they're going to be blown off course, and that spinning mechanism is going to give them a little bit more distance, and so they'll be landing further from the parent tree. And now, seeing all these around here, we can see that there has been great wind because the sycamore trees and the maple trees are over there. These trees here are fir trees, they're cypress firs, and this one over here is a cherry blossom, and so unless it was one of these up here, that one looks like a sycamore, it's either that one or one of these over here. And so we can see that the wind would have been blowing pretty strong for the seeds to be so far away. Now, because of their design, because of their wing type design, that's what enabled them to get dispersed so far from the tree. And so I suppose during the autumn, when these seeds are going to be falling, there's going to be some windy days, and it only takes one windy day to dislodge these seeds and take them 100 yards, and then their evolutionary design has come into fruition. It's done its job. If they were just round seeds, they would have just fallen from the tree, wouldn't they? So when we observe these things and we start to have a greater and deeper appreciation for the world about us, we see that everything is a miracle. Everything is astoundingly miraculous. And so I've been around this graveyard so many occasions. I've done DMT in here, I've meditated, I've bird watched, I have walked the whole parameter on numerous occasions, inspecting every single leaf and bud and bark on every single tree, and looking what these trees are, and looking what the difference is between all the seasons and everything. And so I have all of these trees and the leaves and the seeds, they're all in my mind now. And so I have a greater knowing. So my consciousness has expanded, you see. My consciousness contains all these trees, and I know where all the fungus grows around here, and I've seen 1,000 of these tiny little sparks, and I can point out many of the tombstones which they derive from when you're sitting in a certain place. And so what I'm saying is, people, if you do this, then you are awoken. If you don't do this, then you are still fast asleep. You are still governed within the realms of the ego. And I've said 1,000 times, people who are governed entirely in the realm of the ego, they don't know anything about this stuff. It's all kind of like, well, yeah, we all know that, Aaron. Well, yeah, I've seen that, Aaron. But no, you've not. You've not. The ego is, well, yeah. Well, yeah, I've seen that. We've seen that. Ego's seen that. No, stop. Just stop. There's a massive difference between seeing it from your extended state of consciousness and thinking that you know it from the egoic state. You know, when I've spoken about these little seeds, you'll all be able to say, of course we know about that, but do you really know about them? Have you really thought about them? Have you really considered the evolutionary thing about them? Does it mean anything to you? Has it lodged within you? Has it struck a chord with magic and majesty and genius within you? Or do you just go, oh, everyone knows that? And that's the despicable thing about the ego. It's so dismissive, it's so haughty, it's so arrogant, and it's so dismissive that everything is just this and just that, because it knows everything. And when you see like a blackbird or a sparrow or a thrush or a starling, oh, it's just a thrush, it's just a blackbird, it's just oh, everyone knows what that is. Does everybody really know what those birds are? How many people could draw one? How many people could recite from memory their attributes? How many people have really looked closely at these birds? And how many of you would say, to be quite frank, I haven't got a single clue about these birds? There's very little superficial information that I have gathered about these birds. And so I don't know these birds. This stupid, arrogant ego would like to tell me that I know what those birds are because I've stuck a fucking name on them. I don't know anything about those birds. To be fair, I know more than most because I've watched them, I've observed them, because that's what I do. And I can tell you how many birds walk and how they take flight, and yeah, the shape of their wings and the cry of their call, and you know, many different calls and cries and intonations throughout the year. I can tell you more than most, but that hasn't been attributed to my ego. It's from a higher place, people. The ego is so arrogant, and it really does need to be mastered. It really does need to be mastered. Now, Ian McGilchrist, he wrote a couple of brilliant books, and one of them I've got, and it's called The Master and Its Emissary. Now, the Master and the Emissary is speaking about how the ego thinks that it's the be-all and the end, when in actual fact it's just the emissary, it's just the messenger boy. The master is the higher self, the higher state of consciousness. And so when you know that you have a higher state of consciousness, when you're in touch with that, then you look at the ego and you know it's separate. And some philosophers and psychologists have spoken about the ego being like an island in a sea of consciousness. And so the ego is an island, and the sea of consciousness is the master. And so that thing has awareness of all things, and you could akin that to the unconscious, the Freudian or Jungian unconscious, because the unconscious is said to house every single experience that we've ever had in the finest of detail. It like has a photographic memory. It doesn't miss anything. It's gathered up all that information, but the ego has closed it down and usurped it, and only considers that it needs a fraction of the ego to do its job, which for automaton, that is true. You see, look at automaton. They don't know anything about the world. They don't observe the world. When they're out walking their dogs, they're not looking at the world. They're not listening to the birds. They're not laughing and jumping with joy with a tear in their eyes when they see a leaf dancing as it falls to the earth. They're not looking at any of that magic. They're just walking along, walking their dogs. And then they're picking up shit and that's it. They're doing nothing else. And those are the ones who are imprisoned by the ego. And so, are you one of those? You know, I'm always asking these questions, and You know, I like to think that nobody who watches my videos is one of those. Why would they stick around? But listening to some of the comments sometimes, I absolutely know that you are. And I'm like, wow, what are you doing sticking around? Obviously your higher self is instructing you to do so. And your ego momentarily is permitting that to happen. Now this time of year, when we see these holly berries, isn't it a beautiful thing with these wonderful colours? The gorgeous deep bright red and the gorgeous deep green. Well, it's such a beautiful sight to behold. Yeah, so I was listening to Joe Rogan and Elon Musk last night, and Elon Musk and Rogan, they're saying the world's getting fucking crazy. Every single day, there's some fucking crazy bullshit that is going viral around the world. And Rogan says, look, he's got a lot of friends, you know, and associates, and often he will get a text about one of these things from one of his friends or associates. And Rogan reads the text and goes, you're living in a different fucking world. And then he has the greatest realization that we all actually live in our own fucking worlds, because what that person said about whatever it was that was going global at that moment in time was so far flung from the way in which he saw it. And this is the thing, isn't it? And this is the whole thing between the divide between the COVID believers and the COVID deniers. It was absolutely a million miles apart. And then you could watch information which would make the for COVID sound very logical and reasonable. And then you can listen to the against the COVID to be absolutely logical and reasonable. And it's kind of like, why does the cosmos do this? Why does the cosmos give us the potential for all things to be true in any level of interpretation? You see, when the scientists looked at the COVID thing, some scientists went, it's absolutely true. And we can see it because of this and this and this and this and this. And then other scientists would go, it's absolutely not true because of this, this and this and this and this. And then you listen to both sides and you go, well, it just depends what world you're living in. If you're living in a pro-COVID world, then you're going to believe it. If you're living in an anti-COVID world, then you won't believe it. Now, these things like this, when you take psilocybin or DMT, they'll all be eyes and mouths, and they'll be breathing and moving. And then you'll know that this is just saggy skin on a forehead, and then you can see that all the wrinkles around an armpit, or you know, a horn coming out or something like that. And what the mind does, what the consciousness does, it looks for patterns and it sees all different sorts of creatures in everything. Everything you look at, it's gonna find creatures. And so that's another world, people. That's another state of consciousness which absolutely is there depending on your state of mind. And it doesn't mean it's not real. It's exactly as real as this one is. It's just different. You see, when stupid fools speak about real, there is nothing that's real that is absolute definitive of anything. Nothing is definitive. Absolutely zero is definitive. There is no definitive nature to the cosmos, save for one thing that we can never escape, and that's awareness. Even with catatonics, there's new studies being carried out with catatonics. People that just, their consciousness from an external perspective, turns off. They can still eat when a spoon's offered to their mouth, but they can't do anything else. Nothing at all. And so isn't that bizarre? Because the body, it knows it has to eat. And so when food comes to its mouth, it can smell food, it can taste food, and it knows how to chew and swallow food. So the brain is telling that part of the body to keep living, to keep doing that. But it's turned everything else off, except the pissing and the shitting function, because that will just continue. Only the person won't get up to do that. It will just do it on the spot. Just like it's eating on the spot. But people, what they're doing now is they're starting to be able to discern more information about the nature of a catatonic state of consciousness. And they are thinking that they are more conscious than we've ever assumed. They are conscious of everything going on around them. It's just that they can't do anything about it. They can't even signal, in agreement or not to anything. They can't do that. And so it's kind of like the consciousness, the awareness is still there, but it doesn't send the signals of communication and acknowledgement. And so isn't that bizarre? But for those who are not observant, for those who just think things like this are boring, I'm walking up here now and I see the light and it's coming down these strands of plant, and I'm like, oh, look at that, it looks a little bit like a jungle. Then I get close and I go, well, what are they? What are these vine type things? And then I notice that they've got thorns on them. And then I'm looking a bit further and I'm seeing if I can discern what it is, but I can't discern what it is. It's not a regular briar. It doesn't look like a regular briar to me. But looking at the leaves, I suppose it is a regular briar. And so I'm like, well, wow, there you go, it is a briar. So it comes up from there, and then it goes right up, and then it falls back down. And then you look at that briar plant, and you ask yourself, well, why does it have such formidable thorns on it? Why did it need protecting so purposefully? The stalk of it is very, very hardy, and you'll all know that these stalks are really, really difficult to cut through and to break and anything like that, and yet it's got this added fortification of these thorns on them as well. It's like a fucking lethal weapon. Why? As opposed to this variety of like vine, the ivy type thing. Well, that one's no problem at all. That's very friendly. This one is very unfriendly. And what decided between the two? Why was there that difference? Is it just a numbers game? Is it just that some are for variance? Doesn't really seem to be any rhyme or reason. And then when we look at the hawthorn, the hawthorn bush is very spiky. It's got these long fucking nasty needle thorns on it, and it's a case of well, why are those so important? 1, 2, 3. Where other trees have leaves and little branches, they've got these nasty ass thorns. Well, what's the purpose of that? Because you would have thought that this tree would be absolutely desirous to have its seeds dispersed, and so it would be inviting all animals to come and enjoy these berries, to pick them off and to ingest them, and then to shit out the seed somewhere else for its procreation. What reason on earth would it have these preventative measures, like saying don't come and eat my berries? It's preposterous. So you can see that something's gone very, very wrong in evolution, because it's created this self-preservation mechanism, and yet it's bearing fruit that it wants to disperse with all animals that are prepared to do that. So you can see that this tree is a paradox. Can you see that, people? Can you see what I've just deduced from that? I mean, this could just be my limited knowledge, but I'm just looking at it reasonably and logically. Thorns on a plant invariably are for its protection, so things don't eat them. But then when you ask yourself about the briar bush, well, what animal do you know will eat one of those? They're tough, hardy, and probably not very nutritious. And I've never heard of any animal even attempting to eat a briar bush. They're just a nasty ass fucking pain in the ass plant that everybody fucking hates and wants to get rid of. And then, you know, you've got that nasty ass pain in the ass plant growing next to a hawthorn tree, and the hawthorn berries are edible by humans and they taste like avocado. And so, you know, they've got flesh which is same colour as an avocado, it's the same texture and it's the same taste. It's just avocado. And so it bears fruit which is nourishing and healthy for lots of animals, and yet it makes it difficult to collect them. That just seems stupid to me. It seems paradoxical, doesn't it? And so we can see when we look closer at the world that it is paradoxical. It's a complete and utter paradox. And if we try to make head or tail of it, if we try to reason things out, we can't reason with a paradox. A paradox is a paradox. It's just contradictory. And it tells us one thing and then it tells us another thing at the same time. That's the nature of a paradox, isn't it? And it's kind of like you've got, you know, a creature with two faces, and we've all seen these, you know, riddlers in you know, kids movies, where, you know, for instance, you're lost and then you come upon a talking tree and it's got two faces and you ask it for directions and one says it's that way and the other one says it's that way. And then, you know, on occasions you'll have the riddle of the liar, you know, to try to work out, you know, what the answer is. Something like one of us always tells lies and one of us always tells the truth. And then you have to go, well, which one of you is a liar? Well, the one that always tells the truth is going to tell you that one. And the one that's a liar is always going to tell you that one. So you've got to ask very cunning, precise questions to get the answer before you're going to know, you see. So you can see from this discourse, which I've had for this past 47 minutes, about a whole array of subject matter, how fascinating the world can be. And yet the vast majority of human beings do not find it fascinating on any of these levels. And you ask yourself, well, what do they find fascinating? They'll find TikTok fascinating because they're mesmerised by it. They'll find stupid dumbass shit on television which holds their dumbass attention for an hour or so. They'll find that fascinating, but I don't know whether they actually derive anything from it or whether it's just the stimulation. It's just the flickering and flashing of colours that kind of like hypnotise them into watching it. And then if it's like then they get a bit of a similar emotion inside, and then they start to emulate, and maybe that serves them on some level, you see. That's why you've got so much dumbass television. You know, back in the day when I was growing up, if you're going to have any dumbass television, it's going to be American. Americans really knew how to do dumbass television, and they still do. Whereas European television is much more profound and it's more educational and more mature, you know. But anyway, by the by, to keep observing everything. observing all the leaves on the ground, observing all the colours, observing the trees getting more and more Spartan, and then observing how when I'm coming down here, some trees are beaming more fluorescent than others. So these here, they're not having the light penetrate through them. Now this is a Norway fucking hell, why am I forgetting this word today? I've never forgot this word in my whole fucking life. Leaf, what are you? Please tell me what you are. You're not you are a sycamore, you're a variety of that, but what are a maple? You're a maple, right? Thank you, maple. Stop fucking forgetting, maple, right? You hear me? Yes. You see, who's talking? Who's talking there? Who's getting annoyed with the other one? Why did one of them try and prevent me from remembering that word and getting annoyed? And then the other one started to beat the fuck out of that one. Yes, people, this is what's going on. Because there's many agencies. I'm going to read you some stuff that I've been reading recently, what Freud wrote. And it's very, very interesting. And one of the main things that Freud said was that how so many people had an objection about psychoanalysis. And why did they have an objection about psychoanalysis? Because their ego just couldn't accept it. And so Freud was saying, well, this is exactly my point. What I'm saying is the ego is the false fucking prophet. The ego is full of shit. If you want to really know what the human being is, you have to go inside the unconscious. And we do that via hypnosis or free association or just basically analysing actions and speech. And then we can see subliminally what the true intention of the human being is, because the ego likes to lie all the time, and it likes to contrive, and it likes to pretend, and all different sorts of things. And so, of course, what psychoanalysis has done, it's delved past the ego, it's delved into the unconscious, into the subliminal, and that's where it derives its information from, by intelligent analysis, because you're not going to get it from the ego overtly. You can trick the ego because it's not that smart in most people, and so you can ask it roundabout questions, and then you can get it to reveal information that it didn't want to reveal, because it's always hiding shit. And this is, of course, the shadow. The ego is protecting the shadow, because it doesn't want to reveal itself to being bereft. It doesn't want to reveal itself for being inadequate in any shape or form. And this is why this narcissism then makes manifest. And it runs very, very deep and profound, people. But what I'm saying here succinctly is this: that the reason why the vast majority of people simply do not accept anything is because their ego prevents them from doing that, because it isn't in their ego's best. It isn't in the best interest of the ego, because the ego is spinning webs of deceit all the time, and it's hiding the truth because it can't stand the truth. And that's why it creates the shadow, which it hides and buries, and then it acts in a certain way. Oh, hi, how are you? Oh, yes, I like you. Oh, I like everybody. And then you go back in to your four walls and you're fucking seething. I've got a neighbour like this, a middle-aged woman, and every time I see her, so, hi, oh, it's wide eyes and it's high-pitched voice, and it's all open and jolly, and oh yes, and it's all like that. And I'm thinking, my God, that's the proverbial face that she keeps in a jar by the door, which the Beatles wrote about in Eleanor Rigby. Eleanor Rigby. Where's the face in the jar that she keeps by the door? And so, when anybody knocks on her door, before she opens it, she has to put the face on. You see, isn't that a beautiful metaphor on observation? McCartney wrote that song. And it's kind of like, oh, look at all the lonely people. Where do they all belong? And so this woman, middle-aged woman, I don't know whether she's ever been married or whether she's a widow or what the hell she is, but she lives on her own. And, you know, there's only ever one person that goes round. And then whenever I hear a knock on the door, whether it's even by the grocery delivery, it's hi! Oh, hi! Thank you! Oh, hi! And I'm like, well, come on. You couldn't operate like that, could you, on an ongoing basis? So therefore it has to be a facade. Why do that facade? Why can't you just open the door? You've just been sitting for hours and hours and hours on your own, probably watching telly. You're pretty sedated. You go to the door. Oh, hello. Oh, my groceries, thank you. Oh, do you want to help with that? Or, you know, there's any other. Oh, hi! Oh, my groceries are here. Oh, wonderful. Oh, lovely. It's just fucking ridiculous, isn't it? But that's what the ego does, people. That's what the ego does. It presents to the world all these personas, all these fake beings. How many of you are authentic? That's why you like watching The Awakened Brave, because it's authentic down to the fucking T. Just pure authenticism. That's what you get with The Awakened Brave. And it's so refreshing. And for somebody that can walk down the street and just starts going, oh, hi, oh yes, jolly, me, without giving a fuck who's walking their dogs over the road. He doesn't give a fuck. It's not important. My ego is not concentrating on that. My ego has been squashed and it's been pushed down into a very, very narrow parameter of my consciousness. It's no longer running this fucking ship. How many of you can say that? How many of you can just be whoever you want to be wherever you go? And it doesn't have to be the authentic self. You can change characters like I do. I change characters all the time. And I'm just acting. What of it? So fucking what? Anyway, I'm going to be going into the supermarket and I'm going to be looking at the drones, and maybe I'll have a bit of a chit chat with one of the drones, and then I'll tell you what they said, like I always do. Yeah, great. This morning I'm making a wonderful video. I'm expressing myself to the cosmos. I'm basking in the glory of cosmic consciousness. I'm going to spend money that I never see and I never earn, and I'm going to buy beer that I didn't make and I didn't bottle and I didn't transport and I didn't pack on the shelves, and I'm not beeping out. I didn't do any of those things. The whole world is doing that for me. All I need to do is just be and enjoy the proceeds of everything. Do you know what that feels like, people? Can you imagine that might just make you feel like God? When you don't have to do anything, but you get the proceeds of everything. You get the proceeds of the sun. You get the proceeds of the earth. You get the proceeds of the whole of the human race. Every single thing that I've got is a proceed of somebody else's labour that I have nothing to do with. And I don't contribute in any shape or form, and I haven't done in the physical manner for many, many years. So why am I being afforded this privilege? It's because I've realised that I am God. And this is what gods do, you see? Can you get your heads around that? Oh, do you think that that's my massive ego? I've just been telling you the ego is a fucking liar. What doesn't look to be true? If you look at it, if I'm getting absolutely everything, all the proceeds of everybody else's labour, the proceeds of people tarmacking this path, the proceeds of having a safe environment, the proceeds of all the things that we have in modern society, there's this supermarket full of all the things that I desire. And I don't have to do anything because I've decided that I don't want to. Doesn't that make me God? Or doesn't that make me realise that I have godly powers? I I don't have to expend my energy in any shape or form other than doing what I wish to do. That, ladies and gentlemen, in my estimation, is God.